This is the Tom Bigby Tales, and I'm your host, Shannon Evans. I write about a small town in Columbus, Mississippi, on the Tom Bigby River in Northeast Mississippi. I kind of said that backwards, but here we are. Buckle up, buttercups. This is going to be a long one. This episode is called Rot, ROT, all capital letters. The Tennessee Williams home renovations are currently well over budget, unbilled, and behind schedule. The entire project is just putting lipstick and window dressing on a very much rotted pig. Let's do a little history lesson. In 2010, Morrow, with an MDAH grant, by the way, Morrow is a architectural firm here in town, did a complete renovation and restoration of the Tennessee Williams building. For the next 14 years, Nancy Luke Carpenter was in charge of that building and absolutely ignored its basic care and maintenance, like she did the Elks Club and the Musselwhite building, which is just across the street. Then in September of 2023, just in time for the latest MDAH grant cycle, flush with money, and of course, when she had just found out she was not getting renewed at the CVB after March, she wrote a half-ass grant. The grant was due at the end of September to the MDAH Grants Office. Nancy, vice president of the Mississippi Department of Archives and History, the MDAH Board of Trustees, was still at Visit Columbus. Conflict of interest much? Prior to her removal as director, though the board already, the CVB board, had told her she was gone from the CVB by March 31st of 2024. And that event caused her to scramble and come up with dollars for her gig over at the Tennessee Williams building, which at that point had previously been a part-time job. Nancy sent a draft of her grant application to Barry White, the assistant director of MDAH. Yes, his name really is Barry White. White forwarded the application to Divya Pia, the grant administrator. Nancy got feedback. I'm going to read the feedback she got. Dear Mrs. Carpenter, this is dated September 15th, 2023. I reviewed the draft version of your application, and here are my comments for your final submission. Number one, the application needs to mention the matching share and provide supporting document for the mentioned match. Number two, the items covered by the funds include general conditions and demolition, any structural stabilization, repairs, and rehab, bonds, contractor, O&P, taxes on total, construction contingency, etc. The grant does not cover administration charges related to grants coordination, permit, insurance, project sign, latent condition, cleanup, and trash removal, or final cleaning. Number three, if there's any particular order to perform the listed scope of work in this phase, please mention them in the partial funding section so we can fund them accordingly. And number four, the final submittal requires recent photographs of the property with photo key and W-9 form. I hope this information helps you create a strong application. Please let me know if you have any questions or concern regarding your application. Well, back to number one, the application needs to mention the matching share and provide supporting document for that match. The mayor of Columbus, Keith Gaskin, submitted a letter stating he would help her appeal to the city council, and zero supporting documents exist in this current application. As a matter of fact, Carpenter only asked the council for the matching fund yesterday, August 15th, 2024, at a public meeting in City Hall. This is 11 months after she submitted her grant, inferring she had the match. The council has still not stated they will or will not fund this match she is asking for. There's still a month before that meeting, and yet the grant is to be complete and reports sent back to MDAH by 30 August, unless she files for an extension. Number two, the items covered by the grant include general conditions and demolition, blah, blah, blah. It does not cover administration charges related to grants, coordination, permit, insurance, project sign, latent condition, cleanup and trash removal, etc. Despite Mrs. Pia's note from MDAH telling Carpenter the list of items the grant does not cover, Carpenter never removes them from the proposed budget in the grant application. Per my records request, the two grants in play are one left from 2021 for the porch for $35,000 and the 2024 grant for current renovations for $154,000. By the way, let me read the letter that Gaskin actually submitted with this grant. To whom it may concern, please find this letter of support from the City of Columbus on behalf of the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation's application. As Mayor of Columbus, I am committed to working with the City Council to identify $54,069.69 in matching share required for the awarding of this grant. It goes on talking about tourists and the importance of the place, but he doesn't say he's going to give her the match. He just says he's going to work to identify the match share. Clearly, that has yet to happen. They still haven't found it. She's trying to have it put in the budget for the city for 2025. Isn't that interesting? So far, no, per the public request, Carpenter still has not submitted any requests for extensions and in either of the grants. Although it's her responsibility to establish if that is needed to be done. We'll discuss that more later. So far, despite multiple emails indicating additional rotten weather have pushed them behind at least 8 weeks, Carpenter still not submitted any extensions, although there's absolutely also no invoices or receipts for work have been sent to MDAH either. And so 0 reimbursements have been distributed yet. How is that work and materials that's been done already been funded so far? Did Carpenter take out a line of credit at the bank? And what collateral did she use? If she did take the money out, did she use the Tennessee Williams building as collateral? They do not have that much money in their operating budget, as they've already blown through the $102,000 they had from the CVB. Let's move on to exhibit number 3. In exhibit number 3, the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation indicates that the board president, Brenda Willis, is listed on the grant as the project coordinator. Yet, per multiple emails in this public records request, she has not responded to any of those emails or telephone messages from the MDAH grant agency personnel trying to help the foundation manage their grant. Additionally, in the grant application, while this particular piece may seem small and perhaps petty, we at the Tombigbee Tales believe the project narrative, public benefit of the project, is a huge misrepresentation of the building's use and indicates Carpenter's willingness to lie about something so easily proved a total falsehood. In the project benefit of this application, Carpenter states that the Tennessee Williams building hosts the annual Tennessee Williams tribute lectures and porch plays at the House Museum. The Tennessee Williams home has not hosted anything related to the tribute since Carpenter alienated Brenda Carradine, who was a founder of these events. It is now hosted by MUW and the Columbus Arts Council, neither of which are anywhere near the Tennessee Williams building. Let's continue with the application from Carpenter. The application submitted required the last 3 financial statements. Carpenter submitted statements for 2017, 2018, and 2019, when the last 3 fiscal years would have been 2020, 2021, and 2022. Per grant requirements, 3 letters of support were required. Only 2 were submitted. One from Mayor Gaskin, which he signed, and one was from Dixie Butler, allegedly. And I'm going to say allegedly because Mrs. Butler's letter is unsigned, and Mrs. Butler is a super senior. She's blind and resides in a full-time nursing facility. There is no signature and no indication who wrote this lengthy typed letter on her behalf. There's absolutely no witness, and it's actually just kind of tacky. But more importantly, where's the 3rd letter that was required? And why was this grant ever approved without all the actual information that was required? I think Carpenter got special privileges because she's the vice president of the Board of Trustees who sit and make the decisions regarding who gets the grants. Exhibit number 7 in this packet is also concerning. In this application, the foundation was supposed to provide their certificate of liability insurance. Theirs is with Centennial Insurance. The document submitted is supposed to cover the entirety of the project per the grant. The document that is provided, that it says certificate of liability insurance, indicates the insurance expired on July 12th of 2024. Have they renewed it? It also indicates that the certificate holder of this certificate is supposed to be the MDAH. The insured entity is the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation Welcome Center, and the producer is Oak Bridge Insurance Agency on Blue Cut Road, and the insurer affording the coverage is Sentinel Insurance. Isn't that interesting? Now, have they renewed it? No idea. Now, back to MDAH and their issues. I sent an email on January 26th of 2024, and it starts like this. I have several concerns, dear Board of Trustees and Director of the MDAH. I have 0 concerns about the Columbus Cultural Foundation's latest announcement of funding for their grant application of Nancy Luke Carpenter, their director. Number 1, share match. The letter related to the 20% match share by the city's mayor, Keith Gaskin, is not an actual promissory note and is not in keeping with the directives of the grant application, where the submitter must prove they have the actual funds in hand per page 6 on your application. The letter indicates that the mayor will work with the city council to try and secure the $54,069.69 match share, but it is not a guarantee. The mayor nor Mrs. Carpenter have appeared before the local city council to approach the idea of supplying these funds. That has now happened as of yesterday. There is nothing readily apparent in the city council minutes that indicates such a discussion has taken place, or that the council is even aware of such a proposed commitment. Clearly, the matching share letter attached from the mayor does not meet the usual requirements of the grant. See page 13E, submit 5-15. Original images to convey the property's significance and condition must be labeled and keyed, blah, blah, blah. 2, letter of support. In the packet submitted by the foundation, there are only 2 letters of support instead of the required 3. One is from Mayor Gaskin and the other is from Dixie Butler. Butler is a severely visually impaired, blind, super senior who allegedly wrote the letter but did not sign the letter submitted or make a mark. However, she is capable of signing documents, nor is the document witnessed by a responsible legal party due to her visual impairity. Currently, Mrs. Butler is in complete nursing care at Trinity in Columbus. She has been blind for several years prior to her current health issues, but is she even aware the letter was sent with her name on it, and why did she not sign it when she was able? Where is the 3rd letter? Per the MDAH website, 3 such letters are required in the application before the September deadline. Letters of support, at least 3 letters of support from the community must be submitted with the application. They may come from elected officials, historical societies, community groups, business people, or other interested parties in order to demonstrate broad-based support for the proposed project. Letters of support must demonstrate that they concern the current grant proposal. Number 3, financial statements. According to the application, the last 3 years of financial statements must be included in the application. The financials attached to their application only go to 2019. They have more up-to-date financials available, so why are their financials not through at least year 2022, which would be the end limit of the 3 years? Why was this not noted or earmarked an additional, more up-to-date financials required? It is curious to me that these 3 major issues with the grant were overlooked by the MDAH Grant Review Board the same month that Nancy Luke Carpenter, the person who signed the application for the foundation grant, was made vice president of the MDAH Board of Trustees. This is deeply concerning. I believe a full audit of your selection process is needed. I believe the grant for the Tennessee Williams Building and the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation Board should be held up for a complete review by an independent third party using your same standards. I look forward to your expedited response. My response? Well, my response was quite limited, to say the least. Excuse me a second while I try and find the actual response they sent me. Here you go. Thank you for contacting MDAH regarding the 2021 and 2024 grant awards for the Tennessee Williams House in Columbus. I'm happy to explain the history of the projects and the specifics of the scopes of work. In 2020, the property received a $35,000 grant for the restoration of the front porch. To date, the project has not been completed primarily due to circumstances associated with the volatility of the construction market during COVID pandemic and water damage to the building after the grant was awarded. After becoming aware of the compromised roofing system, MDAH advised the project professionals that the porch restoration should not move forward until we were certain the building's roofing and foundation systems were stable. We later received confirmation that the building had been secured, and the organization notified us they intended to apply for additional funding in 2023 for plaster repair, painting, and supplemental funding for the porch. The Historic Preservation Division staff recommended the allocations of additional funds for the porch to ensure the porch project would be viable considering the higher prices we've seen in the construction market since 2020. The Tennessee Williams House grant was one of 17 projects awarded this round. Please let me know if you have additional questions or concerns. I did. Dear Mr. White, I have yet to have a response that addressed my specific questions. I feel that I have given you adequate time for a measured and accurate response to the following. 1. Matt's share of $54,000 question. The mayor now vehemently denies publicly it is guaranteed and still requires the city council's vote. Therefore, she has no match grant. Number 2, missing letter of support and 1 unsigned letter from a super senior currently in nursing care. No third letter present. Missing photo of damage to interior and exterior. Missing current financial statements. If I receive no response to these specific questions by the close of business tomorrow, Friday, February 9th, 2024, I will be forced to escalate my concerns to the Attorney General's office. To say I am disappointed in your lack of response is an understatement. Which Barry then forwarded that letter to the Attorney General's office. Good morning, Sarah. Below is correspondence from one of 2 people with ties to Columbus who are hyper-focused on the grant that was given to Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation for the Tennessee Williams House. I've responded to both ladies separately, but any response I give them is unsatisfactory. Katie had directed that there was no need to respond further, but last night Mrs. Evans indicated that without response today, she will be forced to escalate my concerns to the Attorney General's office. If you're available this morning, can you give me a call to discuss? Apparently, they had a lovely discussion, and I never heard back from them, although they must have had a call on Valentine's Day at 9:30 in the morning. Although on the 13th, Barry sent a rather snotty note to Sarah. No problem. Essentially, I just wanted to make you aware of the conversation since she mentioned the AG's office. I have answers to all her questions, but she has a very large presence on social media and through a series of podcasts, and I know any responses given will be misconstrued. I have availability at 9:30 tomorrow to discuss, but I'll defer to you to decide if it's necessarily. Hopefully, she's moved on to her disdain over the renaming of the W. Thanks, Barry. Barry White, Director, Historic Preservation Division, Deputy State Historic Preservation Officer, Mississippi Department of Archives and History. Oh, Barry is very professional, isn't he? That is the end of my Barry White emails. What's very interesting to me is that when I requested these letters, anything that mentioned my name in it, I was also sent a bunch of emails that had nothing to do with me, and I didn't request, and they actually belonged to someone else, several someone else's. And I found that very interesting that they are not exactly careful about how they do their public records requests. Anyways, I sent a record request to the foundation knowing they were a 501c3 and not obligated to respond. So I sent a letter very similar to what I asked the MDAH for, directly back to Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation at the Tennessee Williams Building. They're not obligated to respond. However, I felt it was important to give them an opportunity to be transparent. No one from their board has ever responded to any of my emails. Not that I actually thought they would, but their board attorney responded that they were not providing any information. The only information they have to provide are their 990s, which I already have through 2021. And I asked, have they filed any 990s since 2021? And of course, I've gotten no response from their attorney. So I'm guessing I take that as a no. They haven't done 2022 or 2023's 990 tax forms yet. However, Nancy did speak with a young reporter from our local paper, the Commercial Dispatch. She introduced the reporter to the architect on the project, who provided some very interesting answers on June 5th of 2024. I'm going to read this. Dear Mr. Taylor, hello, this is reporter's name with the Commercial Dispatch. I'm writing a story on the Tennessee Williams Home and Welcome Center, and I was given your number by Nancy Carpenter. I was wondering if you would be able to answer these questions. Thank you for taking the time to read these emails, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. By the way, Nancy told the contractor and the architect they were not to speak to me. I find that fun. Here are the questions from the reporter. What are the plans for the restoration of the Tennessee Williams House and Museum? The scope of the work is as follows, according to Michael Taylor. Exterior work, repair existing framing of front porch to remove the sag and swell in the framing. Replace existing front porch decking, raise and structurally stabilize existing northeast corner of the house, jack the corner, and install additional framing as required. Prep and paint 100% of existing exterior surfaces. Replace all rotten decorated trims and siding. Interior work. Patch and repair cracked interior plaster. Paint all repaired walls. Patch and repair cracked ceilings. Paint all repaired ceilings. Reporter. How much will the restoration cost in its entirety? The contracted sum is $195,679. Obviously, if there are any unforeseen conditions that need correction, this number could change. Reporter: what has been accomplished so far in the restoration process and what still needs to be accomplished? Architect: second floor interior work is 100% complete. First floor interior work 85% complete. The exterior painting and repair should begin this week. Reporter: what problems have come up during the restoration process and how have these problems been dealt with? Architect: we have found some additional rotted framing members that need replacement, which is not unusual for a renovation repair project like this. We have received structural recommendations for the repair of these items. Reporter: how does this restoration compare to the restoration of the home back in 2010? Architect: in 2010, we had to stabilize the entire house, and that project was a wholesale renovation. Reporter: when did the restoration begin and when is it expected to finish? Architect: an official notice to proceed was given April 1st, 2024. The project at the time was to be completed August 30th, 2024. Since we have run into a few extra framing repairs and some weather, the completion date will be pushed some. We have not reconciled that via change order at this time. We would typically do this a little later in the construction phase. At the moment, I do not foresee any substantial delays that can cause concern. That was June 5th. Keep that in mind. 7 days later, all is not okay and on track. Let me read what that says. Please, from Joe Morgan, the contractor. Dear Clay, please see the attached documents that include RFP 001 and RFP 009 for approval. If these items are approved, we will need to request some additional time to complete the project. At this time, we estimate we will need an additional 8 weeks added to the contract date of completion, provided that the RFPs are approved within a reasonable time. We can certainly discuss timeframes and schedules once we know how they wish to proceed with the project. Let me know if you have any questions or need any further information. We look forward to hearing from you soon. Then on June 17th, Mrs. Pia again expresses she's been unable to connect with Mrs. Willis. Hello, Barry. As per our conversation attached is the MOA for the project, which needs to be executed as soon as possible for us to amend any additional funds in this project. I had a conversation with Joey about remaining funds available in the closed past project, and he has asked me to start a conversation with Robert to reclaim those funds and present it to the board for redirecting it in other projects. The contact for Mrs. Brenda Willis, board president of Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation, is her address or her telephone number. I have reached out to Mrs. Willis through emails as well as calls and am unable to get this MOA executed from their end. Please let me know if any other information is needed regarding this project. Regards, Divya Pai, or I believe it's Pai, sorry, PAI, Grants and Easements Administrator, Historic Preservation Division of MDAH. Where's Mrs. Willis? Why is she AWOL? Why won't she respond and sign off on the memorandums of understanding? Did she ever sign them? If not her, then who did? And where are those MOAs? Then on June 19th, it's clear from a lengthy email from Clay Patterson of Morrow & Morrow that a significant phone call took place between Patterson and Barry White from MDAH. This one is quite lengthy, so hang with me, guys. Barry: following up on our phone conversation, I reviewed the most recent pay application on the original contract and the proposed change order items in an attempt to find any cost savings for items that are not directly related to structural repairs. Please keep in mind that the most recent pay application is from a month ago, and we will have a new pay application submitted in the next week. So I had to make some guesses about the percentage of work the contractor will be billing for. For that reason, the numbers below are estimates. If we stop all currently scheduled work on the exterior of the building, including exterior woodwork repairs and painting, and do not spend the contract's latent conditions allowance, we could deduct approximately $60,000 from the original contract amount of $195,679. If we only do the structural repairs portion of the proposed change order, that cost could be reduced from $192,145 to $173,679. The net of these two items would result in an increase in the original contract amount of $113,679 for an all-in cost of $309,358. Please note that deducting the work in the original contract would leave the house in vulnerable condition due to not completing the exterior repairs and painting. There is significant wood rot occurring in the trims and siding of the house that is allowing water into the wall cavities. Without completing the exterior woodwork repairs and painting, this deterioration will continue and cause more issues in the future. The reduction of the proposed change order in structural items only would not cause future issues. You also mentioned someone from your office will be visiting the site this afternoon. If I need to meet them on site, please let me know at least an hour before their arrival. Feel free to reach out with any questions, and Patterson gives his cell phone. Now then, this led me to ask, where are the other emails and what decisions on change orders or new MOAs occurred as a result, and why are they not included in this public records request? And this is quite a significant development. And what was their decision? Well, it's interesting. That was on June 19th. But on May 20th, just a few days prior, Nancy wrote an email to Barry and Divya, and it states, "Good morning. As I mentioned last week, the work is continuing on the project with no change orders needed. The dollar amount does not exceed the amount budgeted for latent conditions. Barry, as I mentioned to you, the boards on the front porch will run parallel with the boards on the steps. I will make sure the required pictures with updates are included in the packet. If there's anything else you need, please let me know." I find that really interesting because apparently just 2 days after that email, on May 22nd, Strutech, a structural engineering firm from Tupelo, completed an inspection of the property and submitted a report. So apparently they already knew there was a problem because the report is dated that their visit was the 22nd. Now, a structural engineering firm doesn't get called on site in a project like this unless there's an issue. So somebody had to know before May 22nd that there was an issue. They completed an inspection of the property based on the visual rot on the first floor exterior. Now, how did Carpenter just dismiss this forthcoming visit on her May 20th letter to the MDAH? I'm going to read the letter from Thomas Dabbs of Strutech, the structural engineers. Attention, Michael Taylor, Pryor and Morrow. This was an observation assessment of the existing Tennessee Williams Visitor Center structure at 300 Main Street, Columbus, Mississippi. Mr. Taylor, submitted here are observations from our field inspection, which we conducted on May 22nd of the Tennessee Williams Visitor Center structure located at 300 Main Street, Columbus, Mississippi. The main purpose was to observe some concerns with the wood framing of the first floor level that recently has experienced movement during renovations. Did you hear that right? The first floor has experienced movement during renovations that are currently being done. We appreciate the opportunity to be of service. If you should have any questions concerning the report, please do not hesitate. I will begin the report. This will knock your socks off. General overview. The current existing building is a wood frame structure with a second floor level constructed primarily with wood floor joist rafters and wood exterior wall studs. Structure is supported by a conventional foundation and it has wood plank siding on the exterior. It was reported to us that the original structure was constructed around 1875. The main first floor joists are running basically front to back of the house, with the front of the house currently facing north. The purpose of our inspection was to observe some movement that recently occurred at the support of the exterior sidewalls on the east side of the house. Thus, while I did a general walkthrough of the whole structure to look for any obvious area of potential concern, other areas of construction were not observed or inspected in detail. It was reported to us that during renovations, it was noticed that the support of the exterior east wall had rotated out and moved downward. This wall was supported by exterior sill boards that had recently been replaced due to the original wall support being deteriorated. When the wall shoring was removed, the bottom of the wall rotated outward, rolling the top of the new sill supports out also. Currently, some threaded rods have been added between the exterior sill boards and the first floor joists towards the inside, and the exterior wall was pulled back straight as best it could. Did you hear that? The wall is not where it's supposed to be. General observation and recommendations. Upon inspecting the first floor framing supports on the front, the north side, and parts of the exterior sidewalls, several areas of deterioration can be seen under the exterior walls and the perimeter supports. The back of the building and the sidewalls near the back of the building were not easily visible and were not exposed like the front supports. So while there may exist similar issues in the back of the structure, that area was not inspected at this time. In general, there are several places on the front and both side walls that have wall and joist support sills that are deteriorated and will need replaced. This is also significant. There is also significant deterioration in the two front corners of the building at foundation level. Sidewall, east and west repair recommendations. The movement in the east exterior walls appeared to be in part to the fact that the exterior walls of the structure are built in such a manner that the exterior walls and the main floor joist are not tied together like what you might have in more typical construction, where the exterior walls are sitting on top of the ends of the floor framing. But the walls are framed and supported independent of the floor joists. So when the east wall sill boards were replaced and the wall loads were added back, the sill boards rolled outward due to small eccentricities in the support of the wall on the foundation. As reported above, the east wall has been temporarily tied back to the first floor joist with threaded rods to pull the bottom of the wall back in as best it can be. It is our recommendation that the following repairs and additions be done at the side walls of the structure, meaning the east and the west walls. First, there are still areas that the sill supports under the exterior walls and joists are deteriorated and will need to be replaced. It is our recommendation that the new wood sills beam under the exterior walls be accomplished with new solid timber members and not with multiplied 2x wood members as what exists currently in place. I told y'all they just slam 2x4s up against to the old wood. Then the new exterior perimeter wood timber sills beams will need to be more permanently tied back into the interior floor joists. This can be accomplished by adding 1/2 inch diameter threaded rods with nuts and washers each side of the floor joist and tied back to a minimum of 3 floor joists. These rods should be provided at 48-inch OC maximum spacing. In addition, full depth wood blocking should be added between the existing first floor joists at the location of the new threaded rods. We recommend this blocking run all the way across the structure from east to west and have an additional full-length 2x member added under the blocking to tie the blocking and threaded rods together across the full width of the building. Further discussion may be needed on the exact details of these recommendations, and we can assist with developing this in the future if desired. Front wall north repair recommendations. The front wall on the north also has several exterior and floor joist sill supports that are deteriorated and need replaced as required. This is mainly a manner of shoring up the existing structure and replacing the existing damaged member with new wood framing to suit. Keep in mind that, as mentioned previously, the exterior walls and the existing main floor joists are not tied hard together. So shoring and jacking that is done will have to account for holding the exterior wall and the floor joist independently of each other. In other words, you will not be able to just shore the floor joist and hold the exterior wall in place. This shoring situation is typical for the side walls also. See the attached photos for conditions at the front of the structure. There currently is also renovation construction of a new front porch underway. It appears maybe the existing front porch did not have positive drainage to the north away from the main building. So it does appear this drainage issue has contributed to the current deterioration problems. It was reported to us that the new porch construction is addressing the water drainage concern and correcting it on the new construction. Additional thoughts and recommendations. Please note, I only did a general walkthrough visual inspection of the other areas of the structure, and as mentioned above, did not inspect the structure as a whole. In many places, interior finishes prevent viewing the internal framing in great detail. So obviously, every possible condition and details were not able to be viewed. I would recommend that your contractor do a more thorough inspection of all exterior wall supports, first floor joists and their supports, and any other parts of the first floor framing supports, and replace any framing found to be deteriorated or in need of repair, including all building corner framing. Finally, just for note, I have not currently done any type of analysis or code study of the existing framing, loads, or exterior walls. The rest are pictures of all the rot and the movement of the building. Wow. I'm not even sure what to say after reading all that. I then went and dug through the MDAH packet, which was not exactly in chronological order. And I found the in-between email from Clay Patterson pricing the recommendations from this engineering report that kind of accounts for what must have resulted in the phone call between Patterson and Barry White. But I want you to note the dates of completions and costs. So now I'm going to read you another lengthy email. This one was sent to Nancy Carpenter on June 14th. Nancy, attached is the pricing for the structural repairs as recommended by the engineer and the additional items you requested, except the restroom floor replacement. I'm still working to find a flooring product that would be suitable for the restrooms given the condition of the structure in the house and the use the restrooms receive. I had them lump in the previous cost for the structural work at the front corners and porch so we could keep the $25,000 allowance in the project for anything else that may come. I think we need to at least make a decision on if we are moving forward with the structural repairs now so the contractor can get started. If we hope to be completed by October. Below is a summary: masonry repairs, reframing of front porch, structural repairs at front corners, $20,281. Raise the light fixtures in the 2 front rooms, interior fireplace painting, interior door repair refinishing, interior hardwood floor refinishing for $12,000, painting of remaining closets. Replace all remaining rotten sill beams, install floor joist stabilization system, and repair of siding, masonry, plaster associated with these repairs. That will cost, just for that, $147,063.73. If we move forward with all items, it will be an additive change order of $192,145.38. This is over the $197,679, the original project that was awarded to Joe Morgan. In other words, this will put the project well over $300,000 in total. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks, Clay Patterson. Holy cow. Woof. Just to replace the perimeter sill beams, which they are not doing, would be an additional $147,063.73. It is clear they have decided not to replace those sill beams because we've seen that they've just attached some 2x4s and they're hanging the porch and nothing's been done. Nothing's been jacked up. Nothing's been tied in. Yet Carpenter has made the city council believe the current work only needs $54,000 to be completed with their matching grant. When is anyone, going to call a halt to her involvement in anything involving our tax dollars? Why do we allow her to continue to lie and obfuscate how our tax dollars are spent? She has told no one in this community the additional issues she has yelled at and screamed at both Joe Morgan and Michael Taylor, the architect, that they are not to be speaking to anyone in the community about this issue. The fact that that building is rotting and it is falling around them and nothing is being done. Why do we allow her to continue to lie and obfuscate how our tax dollars are spent? She has lied to the city council just yesterday that the current cosmetic fix will enhance the value of this building. And yet, even with the quick fixes she's doing, the building will continue to rot and decay and disintegrate because she can't and won't be truthful and transparent to this town and this community. She has lied and lied and lied some more to cover up this mess and every other mess she's created in her tenure at both the CVB and the Tennessee Williams building with the Columbus Cultural Heritage Foundation. When do we stand up and have her removed from any office in Columbus that has any public taxpayer funding? Defund that foundation until they remove Carpenter and act fiscally responsible and are transparent in their operations. Call your city councilman now. Call MDAH. Ask them what the heck is going on and why they're allowing this boondoggle to continue. You know, you can't clear up the water until you get the pig out of the creek. Thank you for coming on my podcast, The Tom Bigby Tales. Until next time, when I expose how she misspent public dollars with the CVB credit card. Gotta love a public records request. Until next time.